there, certainly in recent times. And the idea behind this panel is to cast an eye out on the private banking and family wealth businesses, not just obviously in the UAE, but in the wider region as well. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give a quick introduction to myself and give you some initial thoughts as to what we are seeing from an overall perspective whilst I'm sitting here in ADGM. And then I'm going to ask each of the panelists to talk about a couple of topics that they think are germane to this particular discussion. And then we'll dive into a couple of items to go a bit deeper into that. So to give you a bit of a background, I work for Abu Dhabi Global Market, which is Abu Dhabi's international financial center market development function. I look after market infrastructure, digital banking, fintech VCs, and I also look after South Asia. So that's my remit, and we try and develop the ecosystem. And of course, as everybody knows, over the last few months, we had that little issue with COVID, which has, frankly, if you will, upturned in many ways the world economic situation and has definitely and severely impacted the operating models for both banking as well as corporates. And as we know, the vast majority of corporates actually are privately held. So family wealth, family businesses have been impacted. Some of the things that we are seeing which has heavily risen up the agenda are things like succession planning. COVID obviously didn't help, and given the nature of the beast that we are dealing with, it has focused a huge amount of attention on succession planning. Family offices, my private bankers over here, advisors, and the people that we speak to, they are all concerned about, and there's at least 2 to 3 times doubling of inquiries that are coming in as to what do we do? How do we take a look at it? And just creating a will isn't succession planning. You need to sit back and think quite long and hard about what is going to be the future of your family wealth as well as your family business. The other piece that obviously is concerning both the family wealth, family businesses, and the private banking world insofar as we are concerned is the changes in international regulations and taxes. We recently had the announcement about the multinational tax regime that has happening. BEPS is moving on. There have been discussions around e-commerce. And let's be honest, I mean, quite a lot of governments have taken up quite a lot of debt to address the issues of the pandemic. That has to be paid for in some shape or form. So tax issues are definitely quite high on the agenda. The flip side of the tax is economic substance. Whether you're talking about FATF, whether you're talking about local rules, whether you're talking about incentives for people to ensure that it's not just a pass-through or a, as they say, a brass-paid jurisdiction, people are becoming more and more concerned and want to actually fulfill the requirements that are coming in from an economic substance perspective. You actually have to have warm bodies, body corporates, actual activities happening in so many jurisdictions. And that's causing quite a lot of changes to happen. I've already talked about FATF. Besides this, I would say it's not all doom and gloom. I think the shock that has come through has quite significantly forced family wealth to start looking at what I would call as alternative structures as well. The traditional way of thinking it's the family business or, for example, real estate is no longer the default option. We have, for example, seen an absolute extraordinary rise in venture capital funds in ADGM. And quite a lot of them have got quite substantial investments from the family offices. Similarly, whether you're talking about AIF structures or hedge funds, emerging market funds, people wanting to look at joining syndicates, I would say that the propensity and the appetite for family offices to look at alternative investments has significantly increased. That, of course, brings in with the other aspect that they need their family wealth to be managed much more professionally. Perhaps the traditional way of actually having an accountant, which we dealt with the structures, might not actually be the right step anymore. And what a lot of them are starting to look at multifamily offices or setting up their own families. So that just gives you a quick overview of the changes and the impacts that we are seeing. But let's get the experts to talk about the couple of things that they are seeing, which are of concern to their clients and what the private banks are looking at. So, Vipul, if we would start with you, please, your thoughts.
Thank you, Dr. Bhaskar. So in no particular order, but I think as Nash pointed out, we are very, very fortunate to be in a region where the government has really done a stupendous job in trying to manage the current pandemic. And it's very easy when you talk to your colleagues and counterparts and clients in different parts of the world and the stress that they are going through. In fact, what we've been noticing over the last 6 to 12 months is a massive influx of people coming into the UAE. And I think that's a trend that's going to likely continue. We all talk anecdotally about the prices of property going up and so on, but it's not a coincidence that when you talk to a number of family offices and ultra high net worth individuals, whether it's from the European